Hello, my beautiful darlings. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Andres, and if you're hooked on books and stitches, you've come to the right place. So, if you can't tell just by the title of this video and the thumbnail, we're going to be discussing my September reading wrap up. It was a pretty decent month, I'm not gonna lie to you. It was some highs, some lows, and I don't know, it was kind of iffy. And there was a pretty big thing that happened, unfortunately, during the month of September. On September 25th, my grandmother did pass away at the age of 92. She was a very special person in my life. She basically raised me when I was younger as a baby to like 3 years old. And, she was always there by my side. I grew up living with her always until obviously I moved out once I got older. But she was a very, very special, important person in my life. Such a beautiful, kind soul. I definitely think that affected my reading a little bit. But it was more towards the end of the month that it happened, so it didn't affect it too much. But definitely during that time frame when we started like leading up to the point that she got onto life support, and they started letting us know like, there's not much time left and things like that, my reading definitely started to get impacted in the way of like I started a bunch of different books, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to read or what I was in the mood in. I didn't find interest in a lot of the books that I was reading, even in genres that I am interested in reading all the time, like fantasy or romance. So that is definitely one thing that affected and impacted my reading for the month of September. But overall, when I'm looking at the stats, wasn't too bad. Speaking of stats, let's go ahead and jump right into this before we get any sappier and I start crying here. So I always like to start my reading wrap ups with our stats of the month. So to start off, we read a total of, I love how I say we, like, am I more than one person? I read 8 books in total for the month of September. I read a total of 3,183 pages, and the average time to finish was about 7 days for me, which is my usual average always, honestly. And then for the moods, quite the mixed bag as per usual, but my three big ones here I see are dark, tense, and mysterious. Kind of makes sense in a little bit. And then my other moods were emotional, lighthearted, funny, and adventurous. A nice balance, I see. A pretty nice balance. In terms of pace, I read 38% of the books fast paced, 50% medium paced, and 13% slow paced. And I was very interested to see if I was correct on the slow paced book. And it ended up being the one that I thought it was, which I'll mention in the video further down once I start speaking about it. But yeah, it made sense because that book was like, it dragged on for so long. But I'll get more to into that after. Hold on. In terms of page number, 13% was over 500, 50% between that 3 to 500 mark, which totally makes sense, and 38% right under the 300 mark. In terms of genre, you could tell that it's spooky season already because my main genre was horror, thriller, and then we go into romance, fantasy, dystopian, mystery, literary, contemporary. I'm excited to see my genres for October just because I have so many horror books in mind to read. So it's going to be interesting to see that for sure. So stay tuned for that. And lastly, on the stats portion of the video, we have our average rating, which ended up being 3.66. So, as I said, it was a pretty average reading month. There wasn't anything crazy to rage about. There is one book that or maybe two, that I definitely want to like give its praise to because I really enjoyed them the most this month. But let's go ahead and transition over to the wrap up portion of the video. So, if you're new here, I definitely like to do my wrap ups in the sense of starting with my lowest rated book of the month, working all the way up to my 5-star reads. So, as you saw from the stats, I did not have a 5-star read this month, which is perfectly okay. It's not a big deal. Not every month is going to have a 5-star read, but there was a 2-star read. So I want to start with that one right away. And that 2-star read was Graveyard Shift by Emma Rio. So this book, I'm not even gonna lie to you, I was a little confused at first, but we're basically following like a bartender and some other people that they go out into like this alleyway, I guess, or something of the sorts, to go on smoke breaks basically. And then they find like this sort of like grave that's been dug up, and they're kind of wondering as to why, and then something else happens that they find out that's correlated to the actual cover of the book. So all in all, they were just trying to find out who done it in a sense. That's where I was what I was grasping from the book. It just felt so underdeveloped and it felt so underwhelming too. I just kind of pictured it going in a different direction. The prose was definitely very like dark and atmospheric in a sense, but it still was lackluster in the horror department because yeah, there was like creature horror and like paranormal in a sense, I guess, but not even exactly that. Like, I can't really think of the way that I want to describe what it felt like. I just felt very confused for a good portion of the book. I'm not gonna lie to you. And like I said, it was just underdeveloped. I really did not enjoy it that much. It felt like it could have been a whole novel. Like, it shouldn't have been a novella because it should have been more expanded on so many other parts that should have been expanded on, versus the things that were kind of expanded on just didn't make sense in a way for me. So, you win some, you lose some. It's okay. It's not a big deal. But definitely, it just did not hit the mark for me, unfortunately. And that's why I gave it 2 stars. All right. So, the second book I want to talk to you guys about is The Unworthy by Agustina Bazterrica. This book was another book that went in a direction that I was not expecting. And I really don't understand why it went in the direction that it did. Just because I was sold that it was going to be basically a cult book. And I was expecting that we were going to go into it and just be introduced to the cult and get familiarized with like the day to day and what the cult actually, like, not praises, but worships and believes in, and things of that nature. We definitely got those things in the first 25%, but then the story started to shift into a romance. I was so confused. So it was a sapphic romance at that. And I love sapphic books, don't get me wrong. But I just was so confused because the romance really completely took over the story. And I really don't understand as to why that happened. So, to give you a little bit of a synopsis on The Unworthy, we're basically following the narrator. It's kind of written in a diary entry type of format, so we're following just her journal entries and like how she talks about her day-to-day life and the things that are happening. And we start out the book that she's already in the cult. And then we also definitely get more insight on her background and her life in terms of like what happened before the cult, which was nice. I appreciated that. But again, when we're getting her background as to how she got to the cult, there's also another romance plot that goes into it too, that's so heavily focused on. And like I said, don't get me wrong, I don't mind a romance in a book, but especially if it's supposed to be pitched as a horror book, I would expect the romance to be a subplot, a completely secondary thing that we don't get a lot of insight in. Like, we'll know that she is in love with this girl and that she like oogles her, but not in the way that it went to so much description and how they felt and their everyday life and how they come together every night to do X, Y, and Z ritual. I really, frankly, I did not care that much about the romance. I wanted more cult. I wanted more horror. It was very gruesome. It was very brutal. Lots of murder, lots of torture. So lots of blood atonement, like they call it in the book. But that was only for like at most the first 50%. And I really struggled because it was a short book. And then every time that we kept getting the romance, I was like, oh my God, enough of this. Give me blood, give me murder. So yeah, the story overall, like the actual doings of the cult, the actual life that the narrator is living, and the sacrifices and like all the horror elements of the book, I feel like were very strong, but they should have been throughout the entire book, not only in a certain part of the book or only in certain little sections. It should have been the whole book. That's what I was expecting, at least. Maybe that's my own fault for setting an expectation from the jump before entering the book. But all in all, I went I was expecting a horror cult book and I did not fully get that, which is why I gave it a 3 star. All right, so the third book I want to talk to you guys about is The Wife Before by Shanora Williams. Very funny because I chose this book for my October TBR because this was supposed to be a book that I read with my mom in the month of October. But I checked it out from the library on the day that I filmed the October TBR. And I just, decided to start it that day because I was like, you know what, let me get a few pages in just to kind of get a feel of the book and things like that. I read the book that entire night. Like I finished it in one day. Now, don't take that as I loved it. It's the best book in this world because look, it's 3 out of 8. So it's not like all the way up there. But I'm not gonna lie, it was still a good thriller in my opinion. So if you don't know what The Wife Before is about, we're basically following this girl that she kind of feels like she's just like a nobody, that she can't find love and that she's not worthy and things of that nature. So definitely she has a lot of personal issues that she's dealing with, and then she sees everyone around her doing very well, and yeah, she gets contracted to work at this like rich person's house for some little event that they're doing, and she gets introduced to this professional golf player who's very famous not only for golf but for being blamed for his wife's death, but he actually didn't kill her allegedly. So she went into that not knowing that he was blamed for his wife's death. It was, the case was dismissed. He was not the person that killed his wife, whatever. But she didn't know that going in. So when her friends and her other people around her find out, they're like, "Hello, open your eyes. Like, have you looked him up? Have you seen anything about this guy? Like, he's not a good person. He's being blamed for X, Y, and Z." Like, but she didn't listen. She wiped her behind with all of the people's like insights on the guy and to steer clear and things of that nature. And she went ahead and got married to him within like 3 months. She moves in with him into a completely different state, super far away from home, and the story starts to develop in a nice way, a very nice love story. But then she finds a journal, and the book changes into a book within a book. And this journal is the journal of the wife before. And I'll leave it at that. Honestly, it was a really good thriller book, especially if I read it in one sitting. Like I really was turning the pages. I wanted to find the next thing. The best thing about this book was definitely the wife before's journal that got introduced because it gives so much insight, and it really leaves you at the edge of your seat every single time that the entry ends, and then it shifts back to the main story. You're like, oh damn it, I want to know what happened next. So that's a good signal of a good thriller book. I'm not gonna lie to you. The writing style was very easy to digest. Nothing too crazy. The storyline definitely felt very well developed in my opinion too. But there was just something to it that didn't really feel like it was fully like immersive. Like I don't know how to describe it. I just didn't really feel that the main story was as prominent and strong as the journal of the wife before that we were getting. Like if this book was just the journal, I think it could have potentially been maybe a 5 star read, if not 4.5. But because the other story was a little like I didn't really like the main character that much, and just her life decisions in all in general. Like I know that the decision of getting married to the guy within 3 months is like crazy, but every other life decision that she's made, she kind of I felt like she was a little spoiled in a sense too. Like she was always given everything and she just expected everyone to give her things, and I don't like that much. Like you really have to work for things in life at the end of the day. So for all of these reasons, that's why I gave the book a 3.5. All right, so the fourth book I want to talk to you guys about is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. So this book is the one that I was mentioning earlier during the stats that I was pretty sure it was a slow paced one, and honestly it was so incredibly slow, and like it dragged and it was confusing and it was frustrating, like, but at the same time it was so cool and so unique to its own. And I really enjoyed the romance that I was not expecting to get from this book at all. To give you some background, the Night Circus is about like this traveling circus that just mysteriously pops up in a random city on a random given day. There's no rhyme or reason, it just shows up. And this circus is basically a battleground in a sense for the two main characters to battle out and using their powers or they're illusionists, so their powers of of magic basically. So the reason why I say that this book was like so confusing and slow and dragging and frustrating is that we kind of get the gist of it at the beginning, but it's not very clear. And then the whole book, I'm telling you, like the whole book, we're just going through the motions through like the months and through the years of the circus and it being developed and the two different main characters POVs. It's not told in a dual POV, it's kind of just told in third person, but we definitely get both sides. And then we also get some other characters POVs told in the third person. But I just did not understand. Like there was supposed to be rules to this circus and to this competition that the two main characters are involved in. But no one knows what these rules are. No one knows what to do and what the next step is. Or like if the characters in the book don't know, how am I supposed to know? Honestly, like tell me honestly and truly, how am I supposed to know if the two main characters in the book don't know? That was so frustrating to me because I kept turning the pages. I got there was points where I was like, "Oh my gosh, should I just DNF this? Because this does not make any sense to me." So when I finally got to the 75% mark, that's when things started to expand and started to get explained a little more. Still super confusing, don't get me wrong, but it still was getting explained a little more further and in depth. And then finally, I think it was literally like almost the last 90% where we finally like were told everything. I'm not gonna lie to you, the romance aspect of the book was very enjoyable just because it was like a forbidden love type of situation. And if you know me, I love a forbidden love. I'm not gonna lie to you, especially like if it's a romantasy. I love a forbidden love. And I guess you could kind of consider this a romantasy because the romance is definitely very prevalent, very heavy. And then, the circus is more of like a magical, fantastical type of situation because it kind of just shows up out of nowhere. But yeah, I really struggled with this book. I'm not gonna lie. When I finally finished it, I just went into Google to try to find like some more general descriptions and synopses and further explanation on the book just to confirm that I really did understand it well because I'm telling you, it's confusing. All in all, I really have been struggling with my rating for this book between a 3.5 or a 4. When I first finished it, I was kind of set on a 3.5, but the more I think about it, the more that I sat with it, I definitely feel like it is a 4-star read. So the next book I want to talk to you guys about, I think it's book 5. I'm already forgetting, but it's going to be Horrorstor by Grady Hendrix. So this book was actually surprisingly very enjoyable and actually like really creepy and unsettling. So, to give you just a quick brief synopsis, this story is following these employees that work for an IKEA style store. I don't remember if they actually gave the name of the store. I'm not remembering right now, but like you could tell it's IKEA just from the cover of the book. You could tell it's IKEA, but of course, for copyright reasons, most likely they use a different name and they use different names for the furniture and things like that. But very IKEA inspired, and we're following the employees that they're gonna be staying overnight because they are suspicious that there's someone sleeping, like someone. What's it called when a homeless person um goes into like empty buildings just to sleep the night and things like that. Oh, I'm forgetting the name of it. If I remember while I'm editing, I'll put the name right here. But they're suspicious that there's people doing that. So they decide to, get together a little dream team and for them to sleep over at night. Not sleep over, stay in the store overnight to just keep an eye out and watch out to see what's going on and what are the haps. And throughout that night shift, they start to discover things about the store, very creepy, unsettling things. And I honestly don't want to say anything else because I was pleasantly surprised with the creepy elements of the book. I wasn't expecting it to go. I mean, you know what? I was expecting it to be a scary book, but I wasn't expecting for it to go in that horror side. Like in that sector of horror, I wasn't expecting it to go down that route. And it was very, very enjoyable. I'm definitely a little scared now of going to IKEA because I'm definitely gonna remember this book and all those vivid descriptions of those specific moments that I can't talk about because they're spoilers. But I'm just gonna be thinking about that if I ever go back to IKEA. I'm gonna be like, oh my god, I don't want to be here at night. Like, get me out of here. This book was definitely very enjoyable. The horror elements were very, very prominent. The writing styles flows very easily, and this book really has gotten me excited to keep reading more Grady Hendrix because I just want more of what this book was giving me in terms of the horror elements. Like, it really is that paranormal type of situation, and I love those ghost, paranormal, haunting type of situations. Like in terms of movies, I love Insidious and The Conjuring. Like those movies about the paranormal are so interesting and so fun for me, and they actually get me scared because there's things that we don't see that could actually be harming us and things like that. Everyone believes in whatever they believe in, and I respect you if you do not believe in these types of things, but I definitely am a firm believer in ghosts and things like that. I really do believe that they're out there. I believe that there are malevolent presences, or whatever the case is it's called. But if you don't believe in that, I respect it, and I'm not gonna yuck your yum at all. So I don't expect you to do that to me either. But I'm not gonna lie, like I love those types of books and movies, so I think that's why I enjoyed Horrorstor so much. I saw that it has pretty like average ratings, but at least for me personally, I enjoyed it so much, and I definitely cannot wait to pick up my next Grady Hendrix book. Oh, and I rated it 4 stars. I forgot to tell you guys, I rated it 4 stars. All right, so the sixth book I want to talk to you guys about is Nocticadia by Keri Lake. This book was actually recommended to me by one of my friends that we've been friends for such a long time. We grew up from like kindergarten all the way up to middle school, and we still stayed friends throughout high school too. And nowadays we still, follow each other on social media and stuff like that. But Gato, if you're watching this, shout out to you. Thank you so much for the rec. So this book, I actually recommended it to my other book club with my sister-in-law and my boyfriend's cousin. And initially, I was gonna go ahead and read it on my Kindle because it is on Kindle Unlimited, but I decided to go ahead and just start it as an audio. But I just read it fully as an audiobook. The narrators were really good in the audiobook. I'm not gonna lie to you. So if you don't know what Nocticadia is about, it's definitely a very dark, gothic, dark academia type of book. So we're basically following this girl that her mom experienced some traumatic event that she basically offed herself. When she was like in the midst of offing herself, this girl, her daughter, was there, the female main character, and she saw these like parasites and these weird things coming out of her, and she's like, what the hell is this? So whatever, fast forward like 5 years, I think it was, she gets invited over to Dracadia University or Academy, I'm forgetting if it was either or, and she was invited personally from the actual like provost of the university and a specific professor because they want her to go into the study of a specific type of parasite because they knew about her story, about what happened to her mom and how she shared the story. Like, I saw this, I know what I saw. So she got invited to the university, like full ride, like all the whole 9 yards, and she went. And that's where she meets Professor Deverick Bramwell. And boy, oh boy, Dr. Death can get it any day. Listen, this, I don't know if I mentioned, I'm forgetting right now, but this is a dark romance, okay? So, and if you know me, I love a dark romance. And this dark romance was done so perfectly well because it was the perfect blend of plot and smut. I hate a dark romance that's just smut. Like, don't only give me that. I want plot too, because if I'm only gonna read smut, I might as well just watch Corn. Like, I might as well just watch instead of read it. Like, hello. So definitely the plot in this book is heavy, it's strong, it's so good. Like, it really is so good. And it's like mind bending and so twisty, very thriller like. And how the book ends is seriously crazy work. Okay, it's crazy work the way that this book ends on the biggest like cliffhanger in a sense. Like, you could like deduce what might happen for sure. You could definitely deduce what might happen from the ending of the book. But I was like, what the hell? I want to read what happens after now. Like, I need to know what happens next. So fortunately, there is a little bit of a novella that was released already by Keri Lake because she just knew that the real ones needed to know what happened next. So I have that on my Kindle because actually the book provides you it at the end of the book. Like, if you read it on Kindle Unlimited, make sure to like go all the way to the end always and check, because sometimes there's like a free book or a free chapter, an additional bonus thing that's given to you. This is not only for Nocticadia, this is for multiple books, because this happened to me with another book that I'm going to talk to you guys in a little bit about actually. So Keri Lake at the end of Nocticadia included the sequel novella to Nocticadia, which is called Phobia, and it's following the female main character's sister's POV. And I can't say anything else because if I say what it is a really huge, biggest spoiler ever. Like, you're not gonna want to read the book if I tell you. But just go into this book prepared to be crushed in the best way possible and to be head over heels over Dr. Death, okay? And in case I haven't mentioned already, I rated this book 4 stars too. All right, so my second to last book that I read this month is Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. This book was actually a book of the month pick for the September for me. And I got really excited when I saw that this was going to be one of the choices for September. I didn't even look at any of the other choices. As soon as I saw this one, I was like, make this one my book of the month pick, please. Thanks. I was very excited because I saw Haley Hughes here on YouTube receive an arc about of the book, and she reviewed it, and she was raging about it. Like, she loved it. And in terms of like horror thriller books, me and her have very similar tastes, and I love her so much. So Haley, if by any reason you're watching this, I freaking love you. But she was the main one that like really got me hyped to read the book. So I was like, damn, when it comes out, I have to get it. But when I saw it was on Book of the Month, I was like, yeah, bitch, I want this one right now. So if you don't know, because this is a pretty popular book, but in case you don't know, Play Nice, we're following this girl by the name of Cleo. She has two sisters, and her mom and dad are split. Mom is like in a completely different world, to say it in a very nice way, and dad is very straight, narrow, to the point. Mom and dad are split, and mom is adamant about the house that they lived in when they were children. She was adamant that that house was haunted. She really believed that it was a haunted house, that there was demons coming for her and for her daughters, and the whole shebang. Due to that, it led her to become an alcoholic, unfortunately. And because she became an alcoholic, that's why the dad took away the girls and took full custody of the girls. And the girls were not interested in like being with the mom or talking with her or like have even a working relationship with her. Many years down the line, here we are, present day, mom has died. And we find out that mom left the house to the daughters, like left the house for the daughters to decide what to do and how to move forward, and if they want to sell it or keep it, etc. And the two daughters, not the not the female main character, but her two sisters, were not like into it at all. They were like, just sell the house. Like, I don't want this. Like, get this out of our hair now. But Cleo, being the little rebellious brat that she is, she decides to no. I'm actually an influencer online with a pretty high following. I've seen people flip homes and get even more popular online, so I'm gonna do the same. So she goes ahead and starts to do that. When she begins her flipping process, she discovers that there's a book that her mom wrote that has been kept away from her dad and her sisters. Like her dad and her sisters always told her like, if you ever find this book, do not read it. Like this is all lies. These are all lies and deceit that your mom wrote just for clout to get famous or whatever. She found the book in the house, but it was like only halfway, I think it was. And she starts to read into the pages, and the book had annotations, and the annotations were specifically addressed to Cleo. So she wrote the book and made annotations onto the book in order for Cleo to find it and really get the story from mom's perspective. We definitely find out a lot of things from that book, and that's all I'm going to say for now because honestly and truly, this book was so good. Like when you think haunted house, you think that it might get like into the same cycle that most haunted house books or movies go into. This one took a different route, and I love that Rachel Harrison did that. And also Rachel Harrison's writing is so like fun. Like you have such a good time reading about the characters. You love the actual banter between all the characters and their relationships, even if they're like bad relationships, it's still so enjoyable to read. Cleo, the female main character, I loved her. Like I know that she's like a little rebellious brat, like I said, but seriously and truly, I loved that. Like please give me more books with Cleo at this point. I, like I said, enjoyed this book so much. It took me a little bit to read, but it was like around the time frame that everything happened with my grandmother and things like that. But I really, honestly and truly, thoroughly enjoyed the book to the T. Like the writing style, the story, the characters, the prose itself, like everything was so good. The only thing that was a little lacking, I would say, is like in the creepy factor. Like I was expecting, it's a haunted house, so we would get a little more of like unsettling scenes and things like that. We got them, but not to the extent that I would have hoped for. But that's like me and my own personal preference. Like that's not a jab at Rachel Harrison at all. She did a great job with this book. Like honestly and truly, she did so well. And it's for a reason why it's the number one in New York Times bestseller, whatever the case is. Like it's a really good book, and I highly recommend to read it during spooky season because it's so good. Like I have no other words to say besides it's so good. And all in all, I rated it a 4 star too. And the last book that I'm going to talk to you guys about today is Wildcard by Elsie Silver. And this was one of my highly anticipated new releases of 2025 for sure. I read the first three of the Rose Hill series back in April. I read them back to back to back because I was obsessed. Like I was in it. I was like I wanted to live in Rose Hill. I still want to live in Rose Hill at this point. This fourth book, we were following Sebastian and Gwen. Sebastian is a firefighter? Yes. He is a firefighter, but an aerial firefighter. And Gwen is just like a yoga instructor. And honestly and truly, this was such a fun read. I literally at the 25% mark, I was literally like, oh my god, this is a 5 star read. Like, this is amazing. And this is exactly what I was hoping for. Because I'm not gonna lie, Wild Side, the one right before it, with Reese and Tabitha, not my favorite. And I was a little afraid. I was like, I really hope we don't just go even further down with Wild Card. But psych, Elsie was like, no, babes, we're going all the way up. We're going all the way up because Wildcard is my highest rated one out of the 4 books in the series. Everything about the story was so perfect. Like, I am in love with Bash now. Bash might be one of, if not my favorite book boyfriend, but I just remembered Wes Belmont. So I'm sorry, Bash. Wes takes the cake always. There's so many like swoony moments in the book that just make you feel like so like enamored and like oh my goodness, like the smutty parts of the book were actually like so good too. It's a perfect blend of smut and plot for me. I filmed a reading blog of reading Wildcard, and it's like maybe 2 videos now back from this one, and I filmed myself reading the first like sex scene that they had, and honestly like I was like going crazy. I was like blushing. I was like, oh my god, stop. Oh my gosh. And then the best part was that it's supposed to be an age gap ex-boyfriend's dad situation, and I was a little weary about that because I was like, ugh, it might not hit exactly the way that I'm hoping it would hit. But no, like I said, Elsie slapped me in the face. She was like, stop being silly, you know I'm gonna crush it and hit it out the park. What you talking about? I'm telling you, Elsie killed it with this book. All in all, such a great book, amazing. I rated it 4.75, and the only reason that I docked it that one little 25 star was because I kind of wanted a little more from like the spicy scenes, and that's so like hypercritical of me in my opinion. I feel like I should have just left it at 5 star, but it's that I wanted more. I feel like I remember from Wild Love and Wild Eyes that there was like more spice, and it felt like there was more of a connection and more of like oomph in it, versus here in Wild Card, like yeah, they had a connection and it was done very well, but I wanted more. Like, give me more of them, fucking, I swear. But yeah, my beautiful darlings, that is my September reading wrap up. I almost said October, I think. I don't know. But honestly, like I said, decent reading month. Nothing too crazy. Some highs, some lows. Actually, referencing back to Wildcard really fast. Like I said in Nocticadia, that you could find like an extra bonus book or chapter or bonus scene at the end of the book by clicking the link. Make sure if you're reading Wildcard on your Kindle to actually go all the way to the end, because there's an additional chapter that Elsie wrote that's going to be written from the point of view of Clyde, which is another character in the book who I was obsessed with the whole way. So definitely make sure to check that out, because that last chapter is very important because it wraps up the entire series very, very well. But yeah, like I said, that's my reading month. Nothing too crazy, some highs and some lows. I really am looking forward to October because it's spooky season, as you could tell. I am the Halloween king. I love spooky season. I have so many good books on the docket, not only in my TBR, but also in my fall TBR in general. Lots of spooky books I'm really looking forward to get to. And also in October, David and I like to watch a scary movie every day. So we already started yesterday, which was October 2nd. Today's October 3rd. So we're just one day behind, but whatever. And we watched Hocus Pocus, the original one. So I'll definitely update you guys throughout my videos, like what movies I've seen. But nonetheless, we've come to the end of this video. If you liked this video, make sure to give me a like and subscribe to my channel. Make sure to hit the notification bell just so you're notified every single time that I post a new video. Let me know in the comments if you read any of the books that I read in the month of September, and let me know your thoughts, because you know I love to discuss books. I could yap it up for hours on end. And if you don't know or have anything to comment, go ahead and comment the fall leaf emoji, just so I know who the real ones are that stayed all the way to the end. And with that, my beautiful darlings, let's get hooked.